everyone, it's Will here again. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the TFSA. What is it? How does it work? How can you take advantage of it? What are some of the benefits? What are some of the negatives about the TFSA? And how you can take full advantage of this wonderful account that the Canadian government invented in 2009. So to start off, let's talk about how does the TFSA work. So the TFSA stands for the Tax-Free Savings Account. The name itself kind of implies what it does. Basically all the growth and all the gains that you make within the TFSA is tax-free, which is an awesome investment vehicle to use if you are young and you have time to let your investment grow tax-free for 10, 20, 30 years. So let's talk about who can use the TFSA. So the TFSA is invented in 2009. For anyone who turns over 18, you can open a TFSA account and put in the limit that the government set for that specific year. So for example, this past year, 2021, the government came out and said that you have a contribution limit of $6,000. So if you turn 18 in 2021, that means you can put in $6,000 into your TFSA. And then next year, you just have to wait until the government comes out with a new limit. Usually they try to keep pace with inflation. So we'll just have to wait and see what the next year's limit is. So one thing about the TFSA that I've always thought about is that the TFSA should be named TFIA, also known as Tax-Free Investment Account, because a lot of people make the mistakes of using the TFSA as a savings account instead of as an investment account. So reason being, you can open a TFSA in a regular bank account as a savings account, so you can put money in, but the downside of that is the interest rate for savings account are so low nowadays that you're technically losing money in your TFSA, making 0.05% interest or less. So use the TFSA as an investment vehicle and put different investments in it, and this way the growth will be tax-free. Instead of losing money to inflation and making no money in your savings account, you're gaining money with interest that you earn from your investments, tax-free. Speaking of investments within the TFSA, think of the TFSA as like a bird's nest. There's different eggs inside. Essentially, you can hold different investments inside. So you can hold ETFs, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, GICs. There's different things that you can hold under the TFSA. This way you're not stuck with just saying, oh, I can only buy individual stocks under the TFSA, or I can only do mutual fund under the TFSA. The TFSA is very flexible, just like the RSP or any open account. You can invest whatever you wish in it. As long as you don't over contribute the limit, you will be fine. So let's talk about contribution rooms now. The TFSA has a contribution limit every single year, like I talked about earlier. I will include a graph over here for the past 10 years. So one thing to watch out for the TFSA is to not over contribute, because the CRA will penalize you 1% for every single month that you over contribute to the TFSA. So one thing that you always have to make sure is to not over contribute. So it starts to get a little blurry when you open different TFSA account in different accounts. For example, you can open a TFSA account in your bank, you can open it in Wealthsimple, you can open it in Questrade. So all these different accounts, you have to continually watch how much money you're putting into all these different accounts and add them up so they don't go over the limit. One thing awesome about the TFSA is that as your investment grows, the contribution limit isn't affected. I will give you an example. Say person A turned 18 3 years ago. As you can see in the graph that I showed, for the past 3 years, the Canadian government allows $6,000 of contribution room per year. So the person who turned 18 3 years ago started contributing, and let's say interest started growing and she or he earned interest in this investment account, and let's say the investments grew $3,000 the past 3 years. Now, instead of just having $18,000 in the TFSA, this individual will have $21,000 of room. So if they decide to pull out all $21,000, they can still recontribute back $21,000. So let's talk about person B, who never made contribution for the past 3 years, and it's also 21 years old. So now, if they wish to put money in now, they would have $18,000 of room, which is great. But person A, who started investing at 18 years old, has grown their TFSA to $21,000 maximum room, whereas person B has only $18,000. The difference is because person A started investing earlier and the 3 grand that she grew from her investments has helped her increase her TFSA room limit. If she decides to pull out, she can always recontribute back to the limit that she pulled out from. Once you pull out from your TFSA, you can always recontribute back to the TFSA the following year. So say you pull out $5,000 from your TFSA and you want to put money back into your TFSA, the following year you can recontribute that $5,000 back into your TFSA. So with that being said, make sure you start investing in your TFSA as early as possible. If you are young, let the compound interest grow within the TFSA, and then once you're retired, let's say 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, this entire massive amount of money that's grown over this time span will all be able to be pulled out tax-free. So let's talk about some negatives about TFSA. So as I talked about how you can gain room in your TFSA, you can also lose room in your TFSA if you do it incorrectly. So for example, if you decide to buy stocks in your TFSA, stocks which are known to be more volatile and riskier than something like a mutual fund or ETF. So let's say you decide to buy into a company, something like GameStop. So earlier in 2021, we all heard about GameStop. We all know what happened about GameStop. It exploded. So let's say you decide to put in money with your TFSA buying stocks. So you put $5,000 to $6,000 of room for this year into GameStop at its peak. And then it started to come down and then you panic and you decide to pull out. So let's say you put in $6,000 and your stock price dropped to $4,000 and you panic and you decide to pull out the $4,000, you now lost the $2,000 of room forever. Because you pulled out at a loss, same with the gain. If you gain in the TFSA, your room increases, the growth from the investment increases your room, but because you pulled at a loss, you also lost that contribution room. So be very careful in the TFSA. Do not panic and pull when something is down, but do not also invest in something super risky within your TFSA. If you can just let it grow over time in something more diversified, that would be something that's preferably more recommended and something more safe. And like I talked about earlier, over-contribution is not a great thing. CRA will penalize you hard if you over-contribute your TFSA by 1% a month. So that is something that is a negative, but if you over-contribute, you're already at a good place, but just make sure you watch how much money you're putting into your TFSA. The best thing that you could do sometimes, for me, I just put lump sum on January 1st when the market opens. Whatever the limit is for the government, whether it's 6 grand, 7 grand, 8 grand, if you have that money on January 1st, the first day of the market, just put it in to your TFSA, and then this way you know that for the rest of the year you have no more room to over contribute by accident, and this way you can keep track of how much you've put in year by year if you have also multiple accounts in different places. Overall, I think the TFSA is a wonderful investment account that was created for Canadians. I have fully taken advantage of it. I put money in it every single year. My wife and I put money into it every single year. That's the other thing, you can put money into your spouse's TFSA also to help them max out their limit. The government doesn't care whose money it is. As long as within the limit, they're all good with it. So if you're out there and you don't understand the TFSA, I hope this video helped you out with understanding the TFSA a little bit, and make sure you start taking advantage of the TFSA. And if you have a child that's turning 18, or if you're watching a video and you're young, start opening a TFSA account. Like I said, whether through your bank, whether through more apps like Wealthsimple or Questrade, just open a TFSA account and then start putting some money in. And do not just keep it as cash, but invest that money and let it grow over time. Until next time, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like or comment below, and I hope to continue making more videos, and let me know in the comments what you would like to see. And thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Have a good one.